What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into the Queen's Lounge podcast. I am your homegirl, Shay. And of course, I have with me another dope interview today. I'm super excited about this young lady that's going to be coming in and joining me on today's interview. I'm going to bring her in so she can introduce herself. Ma'am, please let the people know who you are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. My name is Christle Reed. I am a Kansas City native, born and raised here. And I'm also a children's book author, amongst a few other things. But that's what we're here to talk about today. So I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are super excited about today's interview. We're going to get into it without further ado. So, Miss Christle, my first question for you would be, how did you get into writing children's books?
So that is a very good question. I never set out to say, I'm going to be a children's book author. That was never a real goal of mine. Writing has always been something that has been therapeutic. So as a kid, undergoing traumatic experiences and things like that, writing was always my way of expressing myself. I really didn't have a good hold on my outward emotions as a kid. I was quick to have an attitude, quick to say something crazy, but through writing, I could truly express myself the way that I wanted to express myself. So I was always known as the kid that was going to give letters for Christmas and write little poems for people and things like that. That was always who I was. So writing has always been a part of me. And I think for me, it just came to be that I thought of a great children's book to write, and that's how I started it. But it was never my goal to be a children's book author. I always loved to write, though.
That's awesome. So I know most writers go through a process, and the process of titling your books, how did that come about?
So my very first book, which is called Hugs from the Sky, was really a healing moment for me. And so I lost my dad when I was 11 years old, and that was back in 1998. And there were no resources available for kids who are grieving. That was one of those taboo type of topics. We'll do a meal train for the adult. They'll check on the parent that was grieving, but rarely did anything happen for the child. And so that first book was very healing for me. It was really a letter to myself, my 11-year-old self. And so the title came easy because that's where my dad is, and that's where I get my hugs from him still. He still speaks to me, and I still find him in little things I do throughout life. That was pretty easy to come up with that title.
Absolutely. I love it because, like you just mentioned, it's very taboo. I'm glad that they have a lot more sources now for children that are grieving, because I don't think that we take into account that when kids are young or when they lose a parent at a young age, that they also have those emotional feelings that they have to kind of go through. And so having someone that they can talk to or lean on or confide in to get those feelings out is very helpful and beneficial. And not only that, but I think it's something that won't follow them into adulthood, because I feel like there's a lot of unresolved traumas that we go through as kids that aren't fully got out or fully talked about, or we're not fully being transparent about the way that we're feeling about those certain incidents, and they tend to follow us in our adulthood, and then we're trying to figure out how to navigate adult things as well as our childhood trauma things. So I'm glad that you actually mentioned that, because that's a good way to also get it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I encourage. Even on my website, there's like some little tips and tricks kids can use to kind of navigate through grief, because you're absolutely right. As a 35-year-old person now, I still see little pieces of like, well, why did I just do that? Why did I say it that way? Or why am I worried about that? And it all stems back from that place of trauma that wasn't able to be properly healed at 11 years old. So you are absolutely right.
Yes. I'm so glad that you found an outlet to be able to, express yourself through writing, because I feel like there's a lot of people who I know personally that find that's their niche. You know what I mean? That's their way to express themselves when they can't say it verbally, or when they don't have anybody to talk to, or when they just don't trust talking to anybody.
Exactly.
That's a way to, for them to get it out. So that's awesome. So during your writing process, Miss Christle, what is the most difficult part of writing, would you say?
I would say the most difficult part of writing would be to be secure in your authenticity. I try to be a very authentic person, but sometimes it's like, well, will they like my authenticity? You know what I'm saying? Like, will this go over well with them? So I think that was the hardest part for me, because most of my friends know and colleagues know I'm going to say ain't and I'm going to say finna. And y'all know exactly what I mean,
Right, right.
that's just authentically who I am,
Yes.
I do got a little bit of countryside in me a little bit. So that's a part of me, So I think the hardest part with writing is you have this one side that's like, oh, you got to be super professional,
Mm-hmm.
you got to appease the majority and all this. And then you have this other side where it's like, well, no, I want to stand in my uniqueness and be exactly who I am. And if they like it,
Right.
they like it. And if they don't, they don't.
Exactly.
And that's just a hard place to be in sometimes, especially in today's society where everything is about likes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One thing that I've experienced when it comes to Black writers, not just women,
Mhm.
but just Black writers in general,
Mhm.
is that I find a piece of myself in every book that I've
Absolutely.
read.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that we can authentically be us in the
Mhm.
books. And I love when I can read a book, watch a movie, directed, written by us in general,
Mhm.
and I get mad at the character.
Right.
And I say I get mad at the character, not that I dislike the character, but it's they wrote it so good, played it
Mhm.
so good, directed it so well to where I'm just like, you know what? I really got an issue with this character, but I
Right.
love it because I felt the passion in the acting. I felt the words come off the page. I felt
Mhm.
a little bit of me in the story. You know
Yes.
what I mean? That's not for every book that I've read or for every movie that I've seen, but for the most part, I see a little bit of me,
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit in me, and it make you
That's
sit
the
back and
point.
think.
That's true art. That's true art when people see
Yes.
themselves in your work. And
And
even
I
in the
think that's the
children's
most
book.
authentic part you can be.
Yes, absolutely. And even with my first book being the children's book, I had to make sure I incorporated things that us as grown people would understand because I knew that these children will be reading this book with their parents or aunts or
Right.
uncles.
Right.
And my dad, an old school dad, he was born in 54, straight from Chicago, Illinois. You know,
Yes.
he wore a little fedora hat all the time with that little feather on the side. And I know everybody got an uncle that had the
Yep.
fedora with
Yep.
the feather
I
on
got
the
a
side
few.
and wore the little sandals when they was barbecuing. Like that's just stuff that's authentic to us that I'm
Yes.
sure I wanted to include in the book. Even a character, there's a page in the book where she's in her bedroom and I was adamant about making sure she had her bonnet on. That's just a part of who we are. So I
Yes.
wanted to make sure our kids were able to see themselves in every aspect of this book. And even the adults that they were reading them with were able to reminisce and see some things that they remembered as well.
Yes. So with the process of writing a book, titling it and things like that, how long does it take you to write a book?
So I would say on average, it would take about I would say between 6 months to a year to write a book.
Really?
Now, I would say so, but my first book, because it was like my true life story, I wrote that book
Mhm.
in 1 week.
Wow.
Yeah, because I knew it. It was my true feeling.
Yes.
This is exactly how I felt. My second book did take about 6 months to about a year to complete, just because you want to make sure everything is right. It makes sense. It has a rhythm to it. So it takes a little time.
That's awesome. Now, are you the type of person that once you think of a title, once you think of what you want to write about, you just sit down and write it? Or do you write a little piece, come back, write a little piece, come back, readjust that piece to make it fit the second
Mhm.
piece, and then continue on the writing? What's your writing style?
So I definitely want to get the bones done first. So
Okay.
it's like I want to talk about, okay, this is what the beginning of the book is going to sound like, this is what the middle is going to sound like, and this is what the end is going to sound like. Once I have those three components, I can go in and fill in the gaps whenever, but at least I know the way the story is going to go. So I want to outline it first and then
Uh-huh.
go back in and kind of put the meat on the bones.
Sounds good. Have you ever
Mhm.
outlined a book and then be like, you know what, that's not what I want to do. I'm gonna go back and
Absolutely.
redo it. Have you done that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. In
Yeah.
my office downstairs, I have a whole bunch of little balled up sheets of paper that's like, that's not the way I wanted this book to go. And I'm definitely a writer. Like a lot of people can type their books,
Uh-huh.
and can do it like that. I have to literally
Pen and
feel
paper.
absolutely
Yes.
scratch some stuff off. I have to have that intimate session with my words,
Uh-huh.
to really feel the book.
That's amazing. I love that. And speaking to different writers who have written books, it's amazing to hear how their styles are so different from the
Yeah.
other person. A lot of the times you can find another writer who writes the same way you do,
Mhm.
that you want to, maybe collab with later on down the line that has a like-mindedness. But to actually be able to hear another writer say that they like to actually sit down and do it old school
Yeah.
because things are so technical now.
I can't do it.
And I think it doesn't take the realness out of it, but it takes the authenticity out of it. It takes like
Hmm.
the doing the work
Yeah, yeah,
type of thing. You know what I mean? They're not cutting corners and things like that, but it's just something about having a pen and a paper. It's
yeah.
something about having a cup of coffee or some tea. It's something
Hmm.
about when it's raining outside and you on the
Oh yeah,
porch. You know what I mean?
oh
It's
yeah.
something about those moments, like you
Hmm.
mentioned, the intimacy moments of writing a book
Yep.
that I think is so authentic and so amazing to
Hmm.
where you reflect on it and be like, man, this is an actual book that I sat and wrote
Yeah.
and got to like literally put the words on the page.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love
It's a
that.
surreal feeling when you see it. It really does something to you because to your point, it's like when you're reading the finished product, you can say, I remember I was sitting on my front porch
Mhm.
writing that exact sentence. You know what I'm saying? It just
Yes.
really gives a level of connection. And although I have two children's books I've actually published, I do this little thing periodically on social media. That's this hashtag Storytime with Chris. And that's more so for the adults, you know.
Mhm.
Those are more so like my journal entry type things because to your point that you made earlier, people can feel each other through their writing. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yes.
know if I feel something, I'm not the only person that felt that way. I'm not
Mhm.
the only person that's able to think that way. And so when I put those up and people comment, they're like, "Oh, Chris, I needed this today," or "You spoke right to
Yeah.
me." That makes my day, because it's like I know I'm not the only person that felt that way.
Right.
And me being able to express myself has now either given confirmation to somebody else's thoughts or has given them clarity or let them know that you're human too. Like you're not the only
Yes.
person that's having that thought. We're good. So that
Absolutely.
makes my day.
Okay, so this is a question I want to throw in there. So I know that it's known for people that do like music, they have listening parties.
Hmm.
And so they have, they pick and choose what songs they want to put on the album when it comes out, but they have like a group of close knit family,
Hmm.
friends, producers, writers that come into a room and actually listen.
Yeah.
So do writers do that? Do writers, reach out to family, friends? Hey, take a listen to this. I'm trying to shoot
Hmm.
some ideas around titles. What do
Yeah.
you all think? Do you all get any other opinions from any other people outside of
Absolutely.
writers?
Absolutely. I would say, and I'm a very introverted person, so I'm not sure if this applies to everybody. But I have my circle of about three friends, and
Mm-hmm.
one being my husband, that know me in and out.
Yes.
They know when I'm faking, they know when I'm not faking, they know when I'm trying too hard. And so those are those three people that I'm like, okay, let me read this to you real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Does it sound like me? Does it sound like Chris? And if it's a no, or if they pause, and it's like, if you didn't answer right off the bat and said, "Yep, that's
Yeah.
Chris," this ain't it.
Right, right, right. I
Yep.
love to be able to have those type of people in your circle,
Hmm.
to be able to have those type of people that's gonna keep it 100. As the young
Absolutely.
folks say, keep it a buck.
Right.
Keep it all the way 100% real with you
Hmm.
because I would like to think that they have the best interest at heart when it not only comes to
Absolutely.
you, but when it comes to whatever it is that you're producing,
Absolutely.
whatever it is that you're putting out there, because it
Hmm.
is a reflection of not only you, but everybody else that's connected to you,
Yep.
which is very important. And then the last thing I would want is for somebody to pick up a book that I've written, read it, and be like, nah, somebody should have told sis
Right.
this wasn't it.
Right.
Somebody should have told sis she need to go back to the drawing board with this one because this ain't
Exactly.
it. Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's so important to have those type of people in your corner that are gonna keep it 100 with you. Okay,
Hmm.
so we got the title, we got how we write it. Now let's get into the illustrations
Hmm.
because every good book, not only is it one thing to read it, to see the words, but it's another thing, especially in a children's book, to be able to see the pictures of it,
Yeah.
to be able to see, you in the picture, to be able to picture visually what the words are
Hmm.
saying. So when it comes to your illustrations, do you already have someone in mind that you want to illustrate your books? And do you work hand in hand with them page by page?
Yeah, so for my first book, I had tried out three illustrators before I landed on the one that I went with. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it had to be right. It just had to be right. And this was no slap against any of the people that I tried before, but it
Yes.
had to be right because of the emotional level that was connected with this book, and the emotions that I was trying to convey with this book.
Mm-hmm.
I had one illustrator that I really wanted to go with him. I mean, I'm talking about everything in me was like,
Yeah.
I gotta use him. he sent it back to me, and although they were nice, I'm like, my heart is not tugged. Like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
feel the emotional connection to these pictures. Um, and I had to tell him no.
yeah.
And miraculously, I met a girl all the way out in Maryland. I've never seen this lady in person. We've never met in person.
Wow.
Yeah, never met in person. I shot her my idea. She sent me back, some little templates or whatever, some little demo pieces. And as soon as I opened it up, I was like,
This is
this,
it. This
this
it.
is it,
Yes.
because she captured everything. I mean, my eyes are still a little big now, but my face ain't got a little big because I'm 35 now.
I
But when
mean,
I
it's
was
the
a kid,
age spread. Cause me too. Okay. It's okay though. We
it's
still look
okay.
good.
It's okay, right?
Right.
When I was a kid, I had the biggest white and brown eyes. Like they just was big and glossy. And if I cried, people just couldn't take it because they just looked so sad.
Yeah.
So I was like, they have to nail these eyes. Like
Yes.
they gotta nail these eyes. And then my dad was such a cool dude. He was so old school, but he had a real Bernie Mac flair to him. I needed that to be captured.
Yes.
And when she sent me back those pictures, I said, "That's my daddy, and that's me. This is this,
Yep.
this is it."
Yep. I love that. And from the way you talk about dad, you had to be a daddy's girl.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah. You had to be a daddy's
absolutely.
girl. Are you an
Mhm.
only child?
Nope. So
No.
yeah, that's a struggle because we both feel like we're daddy's girls, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm the youngest though. I'm definitely the youngest.
Gotcha. Okay. So illustrations, we nailed that. We
Hmm.
got that figured out. Do you work hand in hand for each page, or do you
Yes.
kind of just let them or tell them the title, let them read what the book is about, and then they just kind of do what it is that they
Mm-mm.
do with the books?
I definitely had a vision for each page. Now
Mm-hmm.
she did have some little different creative artistic elements that she wanted to include that I was definitely okay with because they were great.
Yeah.
But I definitely had a vision for each page.
That's awesome. Okay, so you currently have two books.
Hmm.
Hugs from the Sky, which
Hmm.
is to me a dedication to Pops.
Yep.
And then you have another one that is called I Can Be Me and KC. So
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about I Can Be Me and KC.
Yeah. So this was a super super dope collaboration, and it's just crazy about being in the right space at the right time. That's pretty much how
Mhm.
this book came about. I used to work with the executive director of Turner Page KC at a previous job.
Mhm.
And she and I hit it off there. And so once she left that and became the executive director at Turner Page KC, she reached back out to me and said that they wanted to write a book and she wanted me to write it for them. So
Oh,
of
that's
course that was
awesome.
an immediate yes, immediate
Yes.
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 No questions asked, immediate yes.
Yes.
And so she had a team already set up. She had a illustrator and then she had a photographer and videographer that she wanted to use. And so we were all able to just kind of meet, fill each
Mhm.
other out, come up with the concepts. And it was really history from there. But the book is really, really, really cute because it follows the mission of making sure our kids in Kansas City know that one, you can be whoever you want to be here in Kansas City. This is a place
Yeah.
of growth. This is a place of collaboration. But it also outlines this thing that I would say that you and I probably had growing up and generations before us, where it was this messaging that you have to go to college to be successful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
although I went, I
Yeah.
took the bait, I went
I
twice,
did too. I did too.
you know. And it has its perks, it has its positive sides. But I definitely want kids to understand that that's not the only way to success,
Right.
because I feel like it boxes our kids in. So what does the little girl do that wants to be a baker and wants to have her own cupcake shop? What does the little boy do that wants to be an artist? Like where do they fit in the
Right.
of success if we're only saying, oh, if you don't have a degree,
You
you're not,
can't do it.
and it's like,
Mhm.
what do you do with these other kids? What do you do with the person that wants to be a tattoo artist?
Right.
Well, and why would we look down on that job? It's tattoo shops everywhere making money. So why would we
It
not?
sure is.
I got 5 of them. So I'm, you know,
Yeah.
so it's like, why would we look down on these different things when we know that they're profitable things?
Uh-huh.
If my toilet clogged up today, I'm calling a plumber. you know,
Okay. No, for real. I'm
I'm
definitely
not
calling
fixing
one.
it. I'm calling
Yeah.
a plumber. If my fan go out,
Yeah.
I'm calling an electrician. So really teaching our kids that like, hey, whatever it is that you want to do, go for it. Like just go for it and give it everything that you've got. So it's about a book where two beautiful little kids kind of go through Kansas City and they're able to learn about 13 different professionals and entrepreneurs here in the city.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they're actual real people. They're
That's
actual real working
awesome.
people here in the city. And so it ranges from like we have some farmers who have a farm right off of Blue Parkway that grow all type of produce. Then we have Mark, who's the owner of the Made Mop Clothing Company. We have Mr. Shamari Benton, who's a real estate attorney who's doing all the development down there on 18th and Vine. So there's a huge range of different careers and professionals where a kid is like, I can find myself in any one of these
It's
people.
something,
And
yeah.
if they can be successful here in Kansas City, then why can't I?
I love that. And
Yeah.
I know that it's such a cliche, but I am a firm believer in our children seeing us in other things.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Seeing us in things that are not just your typical basketball, your
Exactly.
typical, sports player, or even your typical lawyer or doctor. There's so many other professions that are amazing that, our kids can kind of adventure into. So to actually have a book where there's so many different things listed,
Yes.
and our kids can kind of find where they fit in the in between. I love that.
And the real special thing about the book that I thought was super cool, which is how we used the videographer. There's a QR code next to each person, and that QR code takes you to a web page to where the kids can actually see interviews with each person where they talk about what they had to do to get where they were, what level of reading, because of course we want to promote literacy,
Yes.
How they came about loving to read and things like that. So it's really, really immersive, where the kids truly walk away from this book having a really great idea of what they need to do to be who they want to be here in Kansas City.
That's awesome. So let's talk about future collaborations. So is this your first collaboration?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any other collaborations in mind? Other illustrators, other writers?
So I'm not sure if my next collaboration is, I have really big dreams and sometimes I can do the most. And then, my 3 people that I was telling you about, guys, are like, hey,
yes.
let's reel it back in a little bit, too far.
Yeah.
But my next book that I'm currently working on right now, I want to say that the title is going to be called Bedtime Boogie, but I'm not sure just yet. But it's about my 3 kids. It's about my 3 kids and what they kind of go through every night. Like, when me and daddy tell y'all to go to bed,
yes,
y'all get all snuggled in, but as soon as me and daddy get to the bedroom, y'all in there kicking it. Y'all having a good old time.
It's a party in the room.
It's a party. So that's what I'm working on right now. And I have a dream of collaborating with a certain brand to create like us pajamas.
I love that.
Like us bed sheets, to kind of collaborate with the book. So in terms of collaborations, I haven't really thought about collaborating with other authors right now, but there are other businesses and organizations that I would love to collaborate with. And I'm just keeping them.
I love that.
And going
I love it. And it gives me very 90s vibe. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes. Because when we was growing up in the 90s, as soon as we had the book, we want the bed sheets, we want the toothbrush.
Everything.
Okay. Everything. I'm telling you, we want the pajamas. I'm telling you. They even had the little notebooks with the pictures on them, with the pins to match. I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm with it.
See the vision.
Yes. I love that. That is so amazing. And I think that's so big. Like the dream is so big. I think that to be able to write a book and to think so big of where you want the book to adventure to is amazing, because I think sometimes we could just be stuck in just wanting to collab with other authors and other writers and not really think about how big the book can actually be when collaborating with other companies that can just make the book even bigger. So that's pretty dope. I like that.
Thank you.
I'm with it. Now, is there gonna be pajamas for the parents too? Or is it just for the kids? Because if I want to snuggle with son and read the book with him, I want to be in my PJs too.
We might just do some mugs for the mama. We just do
I can do that. Yeah. I can do that because 9 times out of 10 I done been up super early.
That's it.
I'm with that. I'm with it. I think that's a good idea. I can hang with that. Okay, so my last question I have for you is future books in the making. So that's just one. Now, do you have like a notebook or like scraps of paper of future books and titles that you want to kind of develop within the next few years?
Absolutely. So one thing I am adamant about finishing this year is a grief journal to go with the Hugs from the Sky book. That was something that I wanted to come out then, but I just wasn't ready for it. So I do want to finish the journal for this year, but I also want to get into writing for my age group. Just understanding, yeah, like how you mentioned before, there are things that stick with us when you've endured some level of grief before in your life. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a lot of me walking around here in the city, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of people like me walking around the city that you feel like you're good
Mm-hmm.
until it's tested.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and I want to make sure that I have something for those people so that, again, like I said before, you don't feel like you're by yourself. You don't feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're crazy. You don't feel like you're still tripping or you just need to get over it or, whatever the case may be. But this is a real life situation that it's going to take some time.
Absolutely.
It's going to take some time for you to get over. The grief didn't just happen overnight. This
Mm-hmm.
this was stirring up for the last 20 something years, so
Exactly. And
it's
that's a
not going
long
to change
time.
overnight either. It's not going to change
Mm-hmm.
overnight. So just finding peace. I want to make sure this next book that I have for adults teaches them to understand, make peace with your grief. But just because you make peace with it doesn't mean that you don't have to work on it. But there's no
Yeah.
need to wake up every day down on yourself and depressed because you have grief. It's here. Okay. Like,
It's not going nowhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's make
Yeah.
peace with the fact that it's here and then have some tangible ways of how to relieve it.
Yeah. That's a really good idea. And I think now I'm starting to run into a lot of people who want to be connected to people who are um transparent
Mm-hmm.
about situations. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
No more faking it, no more smoothing it over, no
Mm-hmm.
more, acting like you're okay, but you're really not,
Right.
kind of thing. So I think that's really gonna come in handy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who suffer grief on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And grief is not just the loss of a person, it's the
Yep.
loss of something.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so grief comes in many different forms, many different ways. People know how to handle it, some don't. You know what I mean? And it's not until, like you said, and I don't care how long people have been deceased or gone or, that type of thing. If it's something of them that you're reminded of,
Absolutely.
that's where I think the peace comes in. No
Mm-hmm.
more grieving about it because
Yeah.
you grieved what you had to do because of the loss. But now it's
Mm-hmm.
just having peace with it. Instead of a cry,
Absolutely.
it's a smile. Instead of a
Mm-hmm.
cry, it's a laugh. Instead of a
Yeah.
cry, let me tell you the story type of thing. So listen, I'm getting that one.
Thank
I'm getting that one, and I'm gonna get the other two for my son because he has a lot of
you.
books and stuff here that we read to him as well as at nighttime. So he tends to love those. But yes, that
Thank
grief one is
you.
is, is a good idea. Are
And
you gonna
too,
transition into adult books, or just this one is good?
I'm a play it by ear, just like I played these
Okay.
children's books by ear, because I didn't think I was gonna have two children's books, but
Yeah.
that's kind of how the world goes. But I did want to mention one thing too, before we end, because I think you
Hmm.
hit on a good note of saying grief is not just about you losing someone.
Right.
And I
Right.
think one thing for me, and I'll share this quick story. One thing for me, that I didn't know that was something that I was truly grieving. When my husband and I first started having kids, everything in our life was moving so fast. I'm talking
Hmm.
about changing jobs, had to get a new car, had to move, all of those
Yeah.
things were happening so fast that I didn't have that opportunity. And this may sound very minute to somebody, but this was a real issue for me. I
Hmm.
didn't have the opportunity to decorate my child's nursery. I didn't have the
Yeah.
opportunity to, do all those little things that you think about prior to having kids and, going
Hmm.
around getting your little registry set up and,
Yes.
putting their name on the wall. I didn't have the opportunity to do that. I never took maternity pictures.
Wow.
So it's some of these because everything was happening so fast.
So fast. Hmm.
And so I grieved that for a very long time because you thought
Yeah.
about doing that so much. Like, oh,
Yeah.
kids, when I have kids, I'm gonna do this. And
I'm
I'm
gonna do this, and this. Yep.
girl ain't did nothing. So so I grieved that for a very long time. Like, I mean, I felt like I was starting out parenthood like in a deficit because
Yeah.
I didn't get to do those things. So I didn't know that that's what I was grieving, but that's what I was
Hmm.
grieving, until I really sat down and was like, man, Chris, you are really tripping out over this. Like,
Yeah.
to your point, I had to make peace with it. No, I didn't get to do that part of parenthood, and I'm not going to be able to do it.
Right. Right.
Maybe I can look forward to the fact of when I become a grandmother and I have a second chance to do it then. But me being a mom, creating a nursery for my children, that's over. That's
Yeah.
gone. I don't
Yeah.
even think about it anymore. It's not going to happen. You know.
Right.
So those tangible steps to relieve myself of that grief is, okay, Chris, you missed that part, but you didn't miss your son getting his license or him getting the first car, you taking your daughter, to the movies and to play. I didn't miss
Right.
those things. I didn't miss those things. I may have missed that, but I didn't
Yes.
miss these things. So it's just like understanding the grief, making peace with it, and then figuring out how can I wean myself off of wanting to grieve this.
That's amazing. That's not minute at all because me as a mom, a first time mom, this
Mhm.
is my first child. So me as a first time mom, first of all, I didn't want to be a mom this old. I'm not old, but I'm older. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
That part. I didn't want to be a mom this old because I wanted several children and I didn't
Hmm.
want to be like 60, 70. You know what I mean? But then I quickly thought about my timing is not God's timing. And so whenever he
Say a
want to give
word.
it to me, that's when he
Say
gonna
a
give it to
word.
me. And he wanted to give it to me when he
Right.
gave it to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and rock with it. And so I felt that too. I suffered with infertility. And so when I got pregnant
Mm.
with my son, he wasn't breathing.
Mm.
His breathing was very shallow. And so I didn't get to hold him for the first time.
See.
And do you know
Mm.
how long it took me to hold my son? 26 days.
Wow.
Because he was in the NICU. And because he was
Hmm.
in the NICU, he was very um we couldn't hold him. He
Right.
was attached to all kind of tubing and, so holding him and having to take him out and back and forth into the crib, it was just too much.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't until a couple days later, a couple weeks later, where I actually got to hold him. So I
Wow.
completely understand
Wow.
the grieving process
Yeah.
of having this one thing in your mind, being
Hmm.
excited about this one thing you'll get to do, and then life start lifing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Life starts to happen. And so I held that thing for so long. And my son is 8 months. I
Wow.
held that thing for a long time. I'm
Hmm.
just now starting to be okay with it because he's still in the young age. So I'm
Right.
still able to, hold and,
Hmm.
cradle and snuggle and things like that. But I was really upset that I didn't get to
Yeah.
hold my son chest to chest when he was first
Exactly.
born. You know what I mean? And so
Exactly.
I completely understand not being able as a mom, a first time
Hmm.
mom for me, not being able to have that moment, hearing the stories about other moms being
Yeah.
able to, and to some people, you're right, it may sound like it's small, it's childish, it don't matter, you got the rest of your life
Oh,
with
baby,
them.
that thing mattered to me. That that mattered.
Okay, I'm telling you, it definitely
Hmm.
mattered. And to not know that it was going to happen
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
another thing. You know what I mean? And so, no, it's definitely not grieving in whatever it is that you're grieving in your
Hmm.
life is definitely different for, other people, but no. Nope, I definitely felt that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt
It's
that
real.
one. Yeah, I felt that one, definitely. Okay, so the two books that you do have, let the people know where they can purchase it, where they can hear it, if they want to get a personal signed copy, if you're doing that, where they can where they can get them.
Okay, so my first book, Hug from the Sky, is available on Amazon and then barnesandnobles.com. And then I'm gonna do a little plug here in a second too. But my second book is at Made in KC. It's at the new airport in the Turner Page KC
Oh,
bookstore. It's at the Nelson Atkins gift shop, and then it's also at the Kaufman Performing Arts Center's gift shop. So you can get
wow.
it anywhere there. But the little plug here, me and a good friend of mine have done the Urban Lit collaboration for the last 3 years. Every year we do a Kansas City Urban Children's Book Fair, and this year it'll be July 8th at the Bruce R. Watkins Heritage Center. And so of course
Okay.
I will have my books there for purchase,
Yes.
things like that. But yeah, I expect to see some folks out there. We have a good time every year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have not, please go find these locations, find these places, click the links. Okay. Get these books ordered. I'm definitely gonna put in an order for my son so
Thank
we can
you.
get both of those books so we can read them to him. Because I love him to be able to hear books from black authors,
Hmm.
and black writers and be able to see himself in the book. So we definitely will make sure my husband and I, get those books for him. Absolutely. Well, Miss Christle, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
It was really good to meet you. It was really
You
good
as
to talk
well.
to you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and hang with me on the lounge and chop it up about writing and your books
Mhm.
and what you have future-wise as far as your writing and your illustrations and things like that. I'm looking forward to the Greek journal. So, take your time, but don't take your time.
Right.
So I can get that, and I'm gonna have to gift that to a couple people that I know are, currently getting out of some grief periods in their lives. But it's been amazing. Listen, this will not be the first or last time I invite you on the podcast. Once again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And you will be hearing from me sometime soon. about some
Absolutely. I
other things.
appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anything else you want to say to the people before I let you go?
No, ma'am. Just know that I love y'all. And as I always say, life is going to throw some lemons. You might as well get you a
Listen.
pitcher, some
Okay.
water, and make some fire lemonade.
Period. With some sugar.
Right.
Okay. We don't want no sour
You don't need
lemonade.
a bitter.
Okay. We don't want that. Thank you so much, ma'am. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All righty. See you later.
All righty. Bye-bye.